Hi guys. Hi guys. This is SC, and to give you a little bit of background about myself, I worked in law enforcement for 18 years, and through that time I was working in the jail environment for 3 years, went to police academy, worked on the road, and was a field training officer for 8 years. And I worked at community services in that area for about 4 years. And while I was working in those areas, we would deal with basically anything that was educational that would be needed, for the community. Responsible for neighborhood watch programs, the department's Explorer Post, teaching great gang resistance education and training, similar to DARE, working with Citizens Law Enforcement Academy, and we spent a lot of our times working in the middle schools, teaching the GREAT program and some of the other stuff. So what I do now, I'm a criminal justice instructor, and so I'm going to start with a series on report writing, and why report writing is so important, not only in law enforcement, but in all type of industry, wherever you may work. So hopefully, as this series of videos go, you will be able to pick up information that you will need in all areas of your life, your career, and that's why we're here, to enhance these type of things. So not only with report writing, but we'll be going into a lot of different areas that stem from report writing, and how we deal with and work with people in the community, and we'll talk about those a little bit later in the series. So just the simple thing of, why do we need to write a reputable police report? Well, when we are on scene, when that officer is first there, they're going to want to go through and they're going to want to get the situation under control. If it's not, they're going to want to look and make sure that there's no danger to a third party, themselves if possible. They're going to want to make sure that the scene is safe, so that the investigation can begin, questions can be asked. So this first officer on scene, of course, they may end up in court. So they're the ones who's going to be getting information to begin with, whether they are doing the report themselves or if it's turned over to an investigator, traffic unit, or somebody else. They'll at least have to write a statement. So we want to look at, why do we need to write a reputable police report? Well, we got to think about who reads these reports. So, if we're not writing reputable police reports, these things are going to go to court, and people that are going to see these are going to be the judge, the prosecutor, the defense, district attorney's office, people in the court system, the media. So there's a lot of different aspects of this, and people who will, that will look at these. When we are writing, police reports, there are certain things that we want to include. Of course, those are the facts. Opinions are not something that's reputable. I may have a sense of something that is happening or something that has gone right or wrong. We hear about that sixth sense, but you get to a point that you're pretty sure about how something is or how something's working out. That does not mean you can't investigate into those areas, but as for your report, our opinions on how something is should not be put in there. So we should be looking at the facts only. What is what is the defense attorney, for instance? What is their job? Their job is to discredit you. And so if you don't have accuracy in your report, along with it reading well, grammar, punctuation, the order it's in, and this kind of thing, can make the officer look as if they are incompetent. They don't know what's going on. They're cutting corners, or they lack responsibility. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we put in the report the facts and what is necessary. So when we get into this, we have to just see that for instance, if we're using slang, if we're using something, words that unless there's something that's quoted by a suspect, victim, or witness, because these are the people, or a complainant, that we'll be interviewing. Then we want to, talk about those in a form that's understandable. The lay reader can, understand, what it is, and that, it's not being looked at where we're trying to piece it together. I can't, the wrong word is used. For instance, we use the letter to instead of the word to, TWO, or we're using TO or TOO in the wrong areas. The things we have to watch is that sometimes spell check will not catch those things, or the punctuation won't catch those things. Word, for instance, it may look correct even though grammatically maybe it's not. Right? So, these are the areas we want to look in. So 70% of our time is spent communicating. And, that's going to be a whole, whole area of, when you're on a call and you're getting information. Everything in that area is going to be communication. So, some departments, in the department that I came from, I worked for two different departments, and one of those wanted you to write in first person, and one of them wanted you to write in third person. A lot of times third person is used because it's a type of government writing that's taught. And so, it might be that when we started off our report, it was this officer was dispatched to 238 Columbia Road, Atlanta, Georgia, and it would start something like that. Upon arrival of this officer, whereas if we get first person, it's going to be I arrived, or I was dispatched to 238 Columbia Road, Atlanta, Georgia. So this is your first person. So particularly for this video series, we're going to be working on learning how to do this in first person and not third person. Most of your departments won't plain speak, which means a lot less, for instance, if you're using the radio, a lot less 10 codes, signals and things like that. Now those are still used, but not necessarily in in all those formats. All right, so we talked about first person, third person. What is one of the things we want to start out when we are working on a report is that it is done in chronological order. It's done as we view things in the past. Even as I'm writing, that I responded to, it's still in the past. So we don't want to write it as current event that is happening at that time. Everything is always going to be in the past, right? So we want to go with chronological order. Now, right now we're just talking about the narrative itself. Different departments, they have different incident reports. Could be anything from, a miscellaneous report, incident report, administrative report, booking report, accident report, reports that deal with stray animals. So there's a lot of different reports that be out there. So some will be similar, some will be different. I've had, with working at one department, we had a report. It was front page, and the back page was the narrative. I worked for another department where it was more almost like a book. There were several pages, and we had the option of several pages with it if needed, like supplements, more that's added for victims, witnesses, complainants, things like this. So we want to gather our information. That's where we need to start. So how do we gather our information? Once we arrive on scene, we make sure that the scene is safe, that anyone needing medical assistance or some type of assistance has been taken care of, and that we can go into the scene and we can start the investigation. Now, one of the things I want to get not only is this verbal interview with someone, but also want a written statement. So we're going to have statement forms, and we're going to have the person go on and fill out this form. And what I want them to do is I want them to write it in their own words. A lot of times people will get off that topic of what just happened, and they will bring everything else into it prior to what happened. Now, that doesn't mean that part of that is not, could not be important, but such as, I got up at 7 a.m. this morning, I ate breakfast, I talked to my wife or husband, got the kids ready for school. At 9 o'clock, I dropped Johnny off, and then at 9:30, I was stopped at the red light and someone hit me in the rear. Okay, everything leading up to that, we don't need that in a report. We don't need that, necessarily in a statement. Now, let's say that it was the person was hit in the rear, but during the, at the time they were, dropping the child off, in the line where they were waiting, to drop the child off at the school, someone got angry because they were taking too long, or they believe they cut them off or something like that, and this turned into a road rage incident where they hit them in the rear of the vehicle at a stoplight. So something like this is plausible, and similar situations have happened. So that portion leading up to getting hit in the rear would be important. We would need to know that. So how do we, we decide, is this an incident report or is this an accident report? Law has been violated in both areas. where if it's just a traffic accident, maybe it's following too close. And that's the end of it. Then we get more into the criminal element here, where this was done on purpose. So instead of it being a traffic related, it may be this criminal act itself related. It could be aggravated assault, criminal damage to property, different degrees, criminal trespass. Just remember, different states or different jurisdictions and the federal government jurisdiction, these laws can be similar. These laws can be a little bit different than can be way different than each other. So we think about things like, we have murder in the first degree, second degree, third degree in some states. In some states we have murder, voluntary manslaughter, and involuntary manslaughter. Now, murder in the first degree and murder / or felony murder, be the same thing. Whereas we look at murder in the second degree, involuntary manslaughter being the same, and involuntary manslaughter in murder in the third degree being the same. Now, again, states penalties, sentencing penalties can be different. It can be mandatory sentencing, determinate sentencing. So, there's a lot that can go on there. Now, as you follow the channel, then you will see where we will get into different topics and these topics a little bit later on. All right, so let's get to training on some of this report writing. So, communication. It may be hard, to get information from someone, based on the situation and what's happening at the time. Are they, hysterical? Are they crying? Are they withdrawn into themselves? Are they angry? Are they, thinking to themselves that they're going to plot their own revenge and they're going to get back at somebody? Or they're scared and they don't want to communicate with you? But what we really want to do, is build that rapport, have the person feel at ease, and start getting the information that we can. So, like I said, a written statement, and one of these reasons is because the individual is fresh and they're writing down what happened. Now, whether it's a follow-up, an investigator, or maybe it's the court, they may do a follow-up on that. Because the person, maybe they're, one of the things I mentioned, is obstruction for them. And so they might not be thinking clearly. They might not remember every detail. Those details may come out a little bit later. So, a second interview. And maybe a second time that they're writing this down. But as they're writing this stuff down, you're also gathering that information. And, you're remembering this, you're taking your notes, and you're putting it in your report. Now, I'll always say, have a notepad, have some way that, you can take notes. In the old days, back when, we were just, handwriting, or we were typing reports, where that does happen some places. When I say typing, I mean an old school typewriter, and not necessarily a computer. We see, we see where we have to keep this information. So we would, have just, a drawer full of notebooks, with, dates and notes and things, copies of reports. Now, everything can be in a database. Maybe I want to make a physical copy for some reason. We have to look at that. So, when we're putting this information, together, you want to let the person know, if possible, just, what is led up, what is involved in the incident. What are the predominant facts of that? What we don't want to do is we don't want to, give them information that we think that they need to write. We don't need to, guide them necessarily. Do want them, to put it in their own words and in their own thoughts. And then we would maybe question them, about some things. From there, we can take our notes and put it in our report. Another thing we want to make sure that we do is we keep our victim, witnesses, complainant, we want to keep these people separated, because there could be interference where, of their, what they were recollecting. So, everybody may have a different view of how something happened. Was it a dark blue jacket, a black jacket, a brown jacket that the suspect was wearing? Height, weight, these could come into factors based on, the distance of somebody, whether they're wearing their glasses or contacts, or they're nearsighted, farsighted. Was they were wearing sunglasses with the sun in their eyes? Was it at night? There's a lot of factors that we can look into that. All right, so, these are some of the reasons of, why we want to make a reputable police report. And to further, to reiterate that, is because who looks at these things? The judge, the jury, the prosecutor, the defense attorney, the media, and anyone else, who, wishes to get a hold of that information, as long as it's, based in open records and this type of thing, and somebody has a case number. All right, so that's where we'll stop for today and for this session. And our next session, then we will get involved in more details on how to write that police report. All right, guys, this is SC signing off.